Nathan had bet on the Clays, based on everything he knew about House Raven. Sure, the High Lord Raven was infamous for his underhanded tactics and cold-blooded attacks at night, but he was also known for his cunning, and there was no way he'd have been foolish enough to ever send a single low-level assassin to finish off an important job. I didn't tell you anything. You don't know what you're talking about. Mordrid couldn't believe it. In a few short moments, Nathan had extracted the sole piece of information he had sworn to his lord never to reveal, even in death. Now, all he could do was puzzle over how Nathan could have possibly become so strong, when all the information he had collected said the boy's victory over Jason was nothing but a tall tale, and that he was really just a weakling. Tell me, why did Lord Byrum send you here? Nathan's voice sent shivers down Mordred's spine as his body tensed up. He felt Nathan's grip on his shoulder tighten. I'll never say a word. You must as well kill me now. If you insist. Very well, then. I'll venture he wished for you to harm my sister in all sorts of ways to scare me. Maybe I should return the favor to him instead. Nathan's grip grew even tighter until Mordrid could feel the tendons in his arm breaking. Please, just kill me swiftly, but first I must know, how did you become so powerful? Why don't you ask the heavens when you get there? With that, Nathan drew his knife and slashed across Mordred's face, instantly blinding him. Mordrid fell to the ground and felt around in horror as Nathan stood over him and slowly approached with the knife. You've blinded me! I've done you a kindness. Since you intended on giving my sister a horrid death, I shall do the same to you, but unlike your plans, I won't make you watch as I do it. Nathan's dark words gave Mordrid goosebumps. He knew that he had somehow encountered the devil on earth in the form of a young teenager. At that moment, he would have rather faced 100 dragons than the short boy in front of him. Thoughts wildly bounced around in his head. Curse you, Lord Byrum. How could you be such a fool as to make an enemy of this powerful being? After all the things I've done for House Clay, why did they have to go and make a foe out of this mighty young man? Nathan's blade cut deep into Mordred's skin as he carved a message into the assassin's chest. The strikes were so fast, the assassin had no time to scream. Nathan took no joy in what he was doing now, but he firmly believed that it needed to be done. The fact that the Clays had stooped so low as to go after his sister infuriated him. Amelia is no warrior. There is no honor to be won in slaying her. Those bastards even think I'm weaker than them. Yet they shirk away from open combat and, instead, try to commit murder against an innocent. I swore to my mother that I would find her killer, and now, before Amelia, I'll swear to protect her against all those who try to repeat the act on her. Before Nathan even realized what he'd done, he found himself covered slick with blood. Beneath him lay what remained of Mordrid the assassin. The formidable sellsword was now nothing more than a pulpy mass of black and red liquids. As Nathan calmed himself down and caught his breath, he wiped off his blade and contemplated his next move. If that was the Clay's family best assassin, I'm certainly strong enough to face Lord Byron himself. Based on all that skullduggery, I'm feeling less than merciful right now. With that, Nathan turned to his sleeping sister in her room and whispered, Rest easy, sister. I will not let them harm you. Then Nathan picked up the body, slung it over his shoulders, and leaped off his sister's balcony onto the roof of a nearby building. As the moon rose high in the sky, Nathan flew across the rooftops of the city toward the manor of House Clay. Nathan raced across rooftops with the dead assassin on his back. He was certain that he would murder all the Clays in one fell swoop when, suddenly, he felt another presence beside him. It was his father, Ulrich. Nathan, lad, what happened here? Never mind him, father. This man was sent by the Clays to murder Amelia. I aim to seek vengeance for her. Before Nathan could continue his quest, Ulrich grabbed his shoulder. Wait, Nathan, remember what I warned you. If you go there looking for a fight, you'll find it and then end up in the Duke's dungeon for fighting in private. What would you have me do, father? I would have you torment them without drawing blood, terrify them, and they will leave us alone until the examination. Of that much I am certain. But whatever you do, don't fight them. I'm sorry I wasn't there earlier. Nathan sighed and nodded his head. It's all right, father. What's done is done. I will do as you say, and return back swiftly. Be safe, my son. I will stay with Amelia until you return. Now go. You don't have much time before sunrise. Lord Byrum waited impatiently in his chambers, staring into a fire and praying fervently to the heavens for good news. If his assassination efforts worked, he would sacrifice a great bull in their honor. Thud! A loud noise outside shook Lord Byrum from his thoughts as he grabbed his battle-axe, rushed out of his chambers, and entered the courtyard, where the rest of House Clay had gathered. They, too, had raced outside to figure out where the sound had originated from. What was that sound? What's happening? Are we under attack? Lord Byrum's brother, Goldenaxe, pointed right behind him. A message, my lord. Slowly, Lord Byrum turned around. Immediately his face went pale. On the ground before him lay a black and bloody mass. Mordrid Daggath's face was barely recognizable underneath dozens of gashes and a thick coating of blood and bile. It was, perhaps, the most brutalized body the Clay family had ever seen. Mordrid? B? Lord Byrum knelt beside the boy as Goldenaxe approached as well. Goldenaxe's voice quivered as he examined their dead servant. All of his bones are cut clean through, my lord. Every single one of them. Suddenly, a crowd formed around the body. Every single member of House Clay stood there, shaken to the core. Mordrid was the second strongest spiritual fighter of their house, besides Lord Byrum himself. They all knew that whoever did this must have been extremely powerful. My lord, look, there is a note here. A guard of House Clay pointed at a small piece of parchment clenched in the dead man's fist. Lord Byrum swiftly pulled the paper out and held it up to a nearby torch to read. The words he read shocked him so much that he dropped the paper and leaned against the wall in horror. Goldenaxe's eyes widened at his brother's expression. What is it, brother? What does the message say? All crowded even closer toward their lord as he whispered while staring out 1,000 yards into nothingness. The next to die is your lord's successor, Michael Clay. All of them gasped as they turned to face Michael in the crowd. Michael's own face lost all color as he cleared his throat nervously. Goldenaxe picked up the note from the ground and shook his head. It was even worse than he imagined. The letter itself is written in blood. Father, what do I do? Michael shivered in the cold night air, terrified of the sky above him and of any shadows that could be harboring his doom. His body tensed up like he was ready to run inside at a moment's notice. Damn it all. Lord Byrum recomposed himself as anger flooded out the fear inside of him. He grabbed the note from Goldenaxe and tore it up into pieces in front of his men. You, guards there, go bury him somewhere quietly, without a marker. Yes, at once, my lord. Lord Byrum fumed as he watched Mordred's body get carried out of the compound. Mordrid was an assassin for hire, with no family ties, and no known acquaintances outside of the Clay family. What troubled Lord Byrum the most was that Mordrid was known for never talking, even when captured. Mordrid had escaped a number of times in captivity, and not once had information about the hit been leaked before. This time, however, was clearly different.
How could his attackers have known he was with us? What horrendous ways did they torture him into giving up House Clay? It must have been awful, considering all the things I'd sworn to do to him if he ever double-crossed me. His killer must be truly terrifying.
Lord Byrum turned to the crowd of scared Clay family members lingering in the courtyard. He frowned as he read the fear on all their faces.
All of you, go back inside your chambers at once. None of you shall speak of this matter after tonight, understood? If I hear any whispers, there will be dire consequences.
Yes, my lord. We won't say a word. With that issue dealt with, Lord Byrum grabbed Michael by the collar and dragged him back inside the compound walls, all while staring up at the rooftops in case the murderer still lingered.
Ouch, Father! Don't squeeze so hard. You're hurting me.
Finally, Lord Byrum reached Michael's chambers and led him inside.
Michael, listen to me now. You are to stay in your chambers here and not leave them or even a moment. Understood? For the next 2 days, you will call this room your home, and you will keep the window blinds closed at all times. Do you hear me, boy?
Yes, Father. Yes, I hear you. Finally, Lord Byrum's grip on his son relaxed. After Jason's death, he was terrified of the prospect of losing his last son. If Michael passed, Lord Byrum would be forced to forfeit his family's nobility during the aristocracy examination. Rather than fear for his son's safety, Lord Byrum's thoughts focused solely on protecting his assets moving forward.
Good boy.
Lord Clay sighed and closed the door to his son's room.
Father, wait. Yes, Michael, what is it?
Who could have done this to us? Who could have killed Mordrid? Could it have been the Hayfields?
I doubt it. No. Only Ulrich stood a chance against Mordred's powers, and even then, our assassin would have won.
Then someone else must have done it. Do the Hayfields have some sort of awesome champion protecting them that we don't know about?
I don't know yet, but I promise you, boy, I will get to the bottom of this soon enough.
Lord Byrum shut the door on his son and locked it from the outside. The Lord of House Clay turned back toward a window overlooking the courtyard and sighed. He spent a sleepless night staring at embers in his fireplace, contemplating all the different ways that Mordrid could have died. Over the following few weeks, the Hayfield family suffered no other disturbances as they waited in the city. Amelia spent her days exploring the bustling downtown markets, while Ulrich spoke with other lords about the upcoming exams. Nathan, meanwhile, continued his training in secret, jogging the perimeter of the city each night before leaving the city walls to lift boulders in the nearby forests. Finally, one morning over breakfast, Ulrich rubbed his hands together excitedly.
Today is the day, you two. Registration day. Hurry up and finish eating before it gets too crowded down there.
As had always been the rule of this land, noble families had to register themselves as participants defending their titles in the aristocracy exam against all challengers, whether they be stronger commoner families or ambitious noble ones. Anyone could challenge a family for their noble titles. Therefore, if the Hayfield family did not register, they would automatically forfeit their seat and all of their property. Nathan now understood that this was, in part, why House Raven used House Crane against them. Since House Raven needed to officially defend its seat as one of the 3 High Lord houses, House Raven could not directly challenge the Hayfield title. So instead, the crafty High Lord Raven had encouraged House Crane to challenge the Hayfields on his behalf. That way, once Carlton Crane became Lord Crane, he'd have a powerful ally in the High Lord Raven. At least, That seemed to be their plan. Nathan, however, had no intention of letting any of that happen. He finished his breakfast quickly and threw on an overcoat as he followed his father to the restaurant exit.
Enough political intrigue for now. I must focus on what's right ahead of me.
Nathan took a deep breath and relaxed his shoulders. He knew he also had to register to compete in the spiritual fighting examination, which would occur a few days before the aristocracy exam.
First things first, let me do well in this student warrior examination. Let me show them all the true power of Asura.
After their meal was finished, the three Hayfields weaved their way through the city until they reached Godricshall City Center, a municipal meeting hall where the registrations took place. As the Hayfields stood in their place in line, they soon heard a familiar voice call out to them.
"Nathan! There you are, my friend! I tried to call upon you to travel with us, but when I arrived at the manor, I'd heard you'd already left."
Think nothing of it, Baylor. It's good to see you again.
Nathan smiled as Baylor and Podrick approached them as they left the registration table up ahead. Ulrich immediately launched into telling his old friend Podrick a series of jokes as the two boys spoke privately.
Best of luck on your spiritual warrior examination. I'm nervous about mine, but I'm sure you'll do great. I'll bet you could even take on the High Lord Raven himself if you wanted to. Haha, thanks for your confidence, my friend. As a matter of fact, that gives me an idea.
Nathan turned to Ulrich, whose face was already flushed red from laughter.
Father, why don't I register our family in the nobility examination while you and Amelia reminisce with the Grahams here?
Why not? It's best you learn how that process works sooner rather than later. Just be careful to spell our names correctly on the forms, all right?
Yes, Father. I will do as you say.
With that, Ulrich, Amelia, and the Grahams stepped out of line as Nathan continued on to the front desk. When Nathan reached the front and took out the form for his spiritual fighting examination, he quickly filled it out and signed it. Next, he moved on to his family's nobility examination form. On it, he saw that the Crane family had already challenged his family seat. He'd need only to check a box next to a shield icon beside his family name, and he would be sure to face the Cranes in combat, and most likely succeed in defending the Hayfield title. But Nathan didn't do this. Instead, he looked further up the form to where the High House Raven sigil was. Next to it, he checked the box beside the sword icon. In other words, Nathan risked his family's name to go after the High Lord Raven's seat of power. Since he didn't defend the Hayfield title, Prains would automatically receive his family's land while he faced off against House Raven for their title and properties. The clerk at the counter couldn't believe what he had read when Nathan passed the form over to him.
"Young man, what you've written here must be some sort of mistake. Please, change it before someone notices, and I'll be forced to accept it."
Nathan only shook his head and smiled confidently.
Thank you for the reminder, but no mistake has been made. It's a gamble, I know, but after I defeat the High Lord Raven, it will pay off handsomely.
As long as you defeat the High Lord Raven? Child, are you feeling well? You're speaking nonsense words.
The clerk couldn't decide if the young man in front of him was brave or stupid, or both. After all, the three High Lord families had occupied their distinct seats of power directly below the Duke for hundreds of years. The Lightstones, the Hales, and the Ravens were all well-known family names in Godric's land, with thousands of pounds of silver and hundreds of warriors at their beck and call. Yet Nathan didn't seem the least bit nervous about taking on the High Lord Raven's family.
I've never felt better, clerk. Now, please, submit my form as is.
Very well, then, young warrior. It's your funeral, after all.
Nathan grinned and casually strolled away from the clerk at the counter.
Just wait and see what happens.
I think you'll be surprised.
Nathan made his way through the crowd of people trying to register for the nobility and spiritual fighting examinations. He was anxious to speak to his father about his decision to challenge House Raven, but as he approached, he realized that two others had joined Ulrich, Amelia, and the Grahams. Carlton Crane and his son John sneered as Nathan rejoined his family at the rear of the hall. Before they could get a word in, Nathan turned to Ulrich and nodded his head.
Father, I have signed up for the spiritual fighting exam, as well as the nobility exam for our family.
Nathan Hayfield, I'm glad to see you're still alive. It might be best if you gave up on that spiritual warrior exam right now. You see, only real swordsmen like me have a chance at placing high in it. John Crane cackled as he got up in Nathan's face. Before Nathan could respond, Amelia shoved John out of Nathan's personal space. John tripped and nearly fell to the floor. Nathan couldn't help but smile as his sister defended him.
You idiot! Get out of his face. You have no idea how strong my brother is. He'll wipe the floor with you on that exam.
Amelia rushed to slap John as he tried to stand up, but Nathan grabbed his sister's hand before she could land a strike.
Amelia, relax. It's okay.
Reluctantly, she lowered her palm. Nathan turned to John and offered out his hand to him. John scowled and ignored the helping hand. Nathan shook his head.
Why bother arguing here, John? Why not let our grades on the examination do the talking? And if you're still as strong as you say you are, we can settle things between our houses in the aristocracy exam. You are challenging us after all, aren't you?
Why, you cocky son of a...
Carlton Crane cut off his son by grabbing his arm and pulling him away from Nathan.
Enough of this nonsense. You're embarrassing me in public.
In truth, Carlton Crane knew that open combat between his family and the Hayfields would only end in disaster. With the support of the High Lord Raven, Carlton could take them down in the aristocracy examination without an issue. But right now, when the Cranes would have to fight on their own, they could not risk losing a public skirmish. Sure, it was a well-known rule that noble challenges could be fought only between blood relatives of a family's house. There were plenty of loopholes around this issue. Normally, this rule was in place in order to avoid the risk of a wealthy family buying strength from a bunch of sellswords. But the High Lord Raven had thought of a workaround to support the Crane family. By claiming that some of House Raven's strongest warriors had distant lineage relations with House Crane, the High Lord Raven could send his men into the aristocracy exam to support Carlton against the Hayfields. At least, that was the plan. This was yet another reason why Carlton wished to avoid conflict here. Instead, he simply scoffed at the Hayfields and the Grahams.
We wished to inform you of our intentions to challenge your family during the aristocracy exam. However, it's not too late to surrender the seat peacefully and accept me as your future lord. I promise I'll be merciful and do my best to protect you from House Clay and House Raven.
Nathan chuckled audibly.
Father, sister, let us take leave of this place. There is nothing left for us to stay here.
Baylor and Podrick waved goodbye to their friends as the Clay family stewed in anger. Podrick's voice cut through the throng of people lining up in the meeting hall. Go and be well, my friends, and Nathan, best of luck to you on your examination. Ulrich smiled and boomed back to his friend from across the hall. And to you as well, Podrick. Good luck to Baylor. Carlton's face shook with rage. He called out across the hall towards the Hayfields as they left.
Mark my words, Ulrich. You're making a mistake. Enjoy your title while you have it, for in a few days' time my family shall sit in your seat. Do you hear me? Your days are numbered, Ulrich Hayfield.
As they left the room, Nathan shared a chuckle with his family.
I was wondering how long it would take for him to scream at us again, Father. and at such high volume. Boy, he'd have a much better career as a bard than as a lord of the realm.
Amelia giggled at his joke as Ulrich's eyes began to water.
Really, Nathan, you jest well, but we ought not to underestimate them. Don't worry, Father. I've estimated them quite accurately.
Podrick smiled as he finished waving and looked down at his son. Then, suddenly, the Grahams became aware of the fact that they were still standing next to the cranes. Podrick whispered to Baylor as he ushered him away.
Come, Baylor, we'd best leave as well before the volcano mouth erupts once more.
Carlton Crane's head whipped around towards the Grahams. Veins bulged in his neck as he screamed,
I heard that! You impudent knave!
Carlton's voice was so obnoxiously loud that even his son, John Crane, stuck his fingers in his ears. After registration day was over, Nathan continued to train in his hotel room as he waited for a few more days to pass before the spiritual fighting examination. He focused on improving his Asura eye technique and got into the habit of running the perimeter of the city twice each day. Without his great metal training bars, he did not wish to break anything, so he shadow-fenced for several hours each day, channeling the power of Asura into his body and imagining a sword in his grasp, pictured the High Lord Raven's face every time he struck his final blow. During this time, he also searched in vain for clues about his mother's murder. Ulrich also did this, but with little success. They had even petitioned for an audience with the Duke to discuss the matter, though Duke Godrickson himself was notoriously difficult to contact. Despite being nobility themselves, it would likely take several months before they would be able to receive an audience. Time passed quickly until the day of the spiritual fighting examination arrived. Due to the two great examinations happening about the same time, the Kingdom of Calandria deemed it best to hold the smaller exam for the student warriors first, and then hold the nobility examination a few weeks later. Nathan marveled at the sea of people all around him in Godricshall Square, the largest gathering place in the city, where the spiritual fighting examinations took place. Every 5 years, hundreds of competitors and thousands of people who wished to watch the show packed the place. Nathan made his way through the plaza and nonchalantly took his place in line among the other students. Hardly anyone around him looked up from their own nervous preparations. Despite Nathan's duel with Jason, few spiritual warrior students thought that Nathan was particularly strong.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.